Okay, so what should be the first thing that I do? Fetch the data, right? The what do you call the
You need one fetch for
mhm.
the IDs, yeah, for the album.
Yeah, let me. Okay, let's just start with the UL, right? So okay, we do have. Let me copy the fetch thing. Okay, I do the fetch, and it's for the albums, right? Then let's say I just console log, and I'll just call it albums just to make it clear enough, right? Okay. Yeah. Right. Don't copy it now. I'll paste the code in Slack after we're done. Okay. Okay. So the fetch happened. I have gotten all the 100 albums, right? So let me get it. Yeah. So it looks something like this. It might not be very. I don't know how to zoom the console. Sorry. Okay, but you know what it is, right? So we get the albums. So for each one of them, I'll return some HTML, right? You can do it with for each. You can add it into the inner HTML, or you can do it with map. It's completely up to you. So I will start a string, right? I'll make a Lee item. Let's make a span inside just for the title. Title. Right. And this we need to assign to the list, right? So let's address the list. It's equal to get ID. Let's say it's called albums. So if I go over here, yeah, it's called albums, right? No, because I should assign it to the inner HTML, right? List inner HTML. Yes, right? Of null.
You're fine on arrays, right?
Okay. But I think we have, so I'll need to do a join because, convert an array into a single string. But what's the error? The inner HTML of null. So this didn't get, because we have the same issue with the, yeah. I didn't put it inside onload, so I can't see the UL. The same issue we had at the beginning of the class, right? Okay, so now it loads, fine.
What is the join here?
Join converts array into a string by joining each one of them. So it was joining by comma, that's why you could see the comma. So I'll say join by nothing. So now it's fine. Okay. Right? Okay, so we have a span, and now I'll add a button. Let's say I call it load photos, right? And I will,
It should be load photo
it has photos.
for each title.
Unclick is equal to, let's say I create a function called load photos and give it the ID of the thing, right? And so it's just album.id. Do you understand what I'm doing here? No?
Yes, aren't you loading the object like this?
Hmm?
Like, aren't you just loading the object instead of the
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
like there's a URL inside each object, right?
Yeah,
So when you're typing, just
that's the URL of the object itself. But we want to load the photos. They have a different URL. Right? So if you refresh, now I get to the button. So I click on one of them, and it doesn't work. Anyone knows what's wrong? Let's do an. It showed up. Okay, it was just slow, I think. Yeah. So it's doing that, right? It's just it's able to do it. Fine. You get the ID of the album, right? Once you have the ID of the album, then you can do the same thing again for getting the photos, right? Just copy this part. Then, so over here, we get the ID, right? Also, this needs to become a template string in order to use this syntax, right? So we have album ID / photos. Then we'll get the photos over here, right? Is this clear? Is this really clear? Huh?
it's not understandable.
Okay, look, what's happening is that this load photo thing, if you inspect over here, it has got a load photo 74, right? And that's the album ID. So anytime you click, it invokes only with this ID. So that ID gets passed over to this function, right? And then with this URL, with the album ID in place, you can load all the photos in this, right? Album. It's pretty much the same as this before. Instead, here you were loading all the albums, right? And now you're loading the photos for a specific album. Okay. Log photos. You'll see. You reload. Right. I click on one of them, and somehow it's running quite slow. Yeah, so I got the 50 photos, right? I don't know why it's being quite slow. Okay, so you can see that all of them belong to the same album, right? They have the title and then they have the you got the ID of the album, right? This was 17, right? Load photo 17 happened. Then you did the fetch.
So 50 photos inside the album 70.
Yeah, all the albums are 50 photos because this is a generic API, right? So then you did a fetch with that URL, then you get the photos, and you're just console logging it. This step is quite similar to this step. Okay. I'll do that. Then there was the last step in which a lot of you guys couldn't figure out, right? And that is you need somewhere to attach all these photos. Okay, so this part is a little bit hacky because there's no straightforward way to do this. What I will do is that I will create a ID which would be, let's say, album photos, and then I will sorry, it was running slow. Yeah. Oh, now it works much faster. Okay. Wait,
I'm just changing my code.
so we get album.id. This is a weird step, right? I'm just creating an empty span inside each one, so I would be able to attach the photos over there later on. So if you, when I refresh over here and I go and like do an inspect, what? Okay, yeah. So you can see over here. Now I can. So I get album photos 5 because I clicked on album 5, right? So then over here I can say const album span, same thing. Now we're just repeating the exact same thing we did before. So we have the same thing, album photos, and then we have the ID. Okay. So album span inner HTML. And let's just do this to begin with, just to test if the theory is correct. Right? We reload it. So when I click over here, yeah, I can attach it. Right? So just instead of this now, we'll do the same thing. Right? So do photos dot map photo, and then yeah, I mean I have to just return it, right? So I can just return a image tag for each one of them. And then the SRC is going to be just photo dot URL. I think that was the thing, right? That's what you were rendering in the list instead. Yeah. So if I click over here, oh yeah, so I get all the photos. I also forgot again to do a. That's why you saw the commas very quickly, right? So all the photos have loaded. These are like 50, nothing really photos, but they have loaded in the right place. You can go anywhere. You do it over here. Yeah, hit the photos. So it looks like the bulk of the code, right, is just this thing once, and then this thing again nested in a context. The trick is about like how to pass, like what is getting clicked, and it's not necessary that you do it with button on click, load folders, blah, 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 blah. There's other ways to do it as well. Like if you create the button by document.createElement and button, then you have a reference to that, right? So then you can attach a listener on that guy. So and then when you do the click, then you have, the EL, and you have the EL, like the element on which the click happened. So then you can like reverse from there. So then you can just pass it an attribute, so it can read the attribute of like, okay, this button also has an ID, and then you can load the data according to that. So there's that way. Similarly, when instead of doing this span and then attaching a list over here, what you could also do is find out by the index in the list. Like in CSS, like you have children. You can also use similar selectors to find one of them and then inject the photos over there. This is just a very easy, sure way of, knowing where exactly it would go. Okay.
So, please don't despair. That's the question.
Okay.